Hello students, in this video we shall discuss the concept of conflict of interest. So what is conflict of interest and what are broad types of conflict of interest? We shall also try to understand the difference between various kinds of conflict of interest we hear, namely actual conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, and perceived conflict of interest. So where on the face of it there seems to be no conflict, but there could be actually some kind of a conflict, a hidden kind of a conflict or something. And then what I have done is I have taken from a website uh, many types of conflicts of interest. Almost the site has listed around 20 types of conflicts of interest, and we shall discuss that also very briefly. So to start with, as to what is conflict of interest. A conflict of interest occurs when a person's or an organization's or an entity's vested interest raise a question whether their actions or judgments or making can be unbiased. So whenever about a person or about an organization, a question arises that their actions or their verdicts or their judgment, would they be unbiased or would they be biased? That means there is some conflict of interest. Once again, just to explain, uh, take a situation where the judge of a court judge of a court is hearing a matter which involves his own kith and kin as an accused. So immediately a conflict of interest situation would arise, because whether the judge will be biased, will he continue to be unbiased, or even though the judge may be above board, a man of strong character, but in his subconscious, would it not tilt his balance towards the accused, who is his kid, who's a close relative? Or maybe the close relative is innocent, but the judge inherently has this fear of somebody smearing his reputation. So there is a conflict of interest. In business, a conflict of interest arises when a person chooses personal gain over duties to their employer or to an organization in which they are stakeholders, or a person exploits that position for a personal gain in some way or the other. We have to understand that conflicts of interest have legal ramifications. What are these legal ramifications? I have explained it in the next video, wherein I have explained how the conflicts of interest of an audit firm, which is also into giving financial consultancy to the same client, clear case of conflict of interest. So let's try to move further and try to define conflict of interest. A conflict of interest occurs when an entity or individual becomes kind of unreliable because of clash between personal interest and professional duties. Once again, a conflict of interest is said to occur when an entity or an individual becomes unreliable because of a clash, एक किस्म का द्वंद्व है between personal interest and professional duties. Such a conflict occurs when a person or a company has a vested interest. It could be an interest in terms of money, in terms of status, in terms of knowledge, relationship, reputation, which puts a question whether their actions, judgment, or decision unbiased, can be unbiased. Where Take a case, take a case of an investigating agency wherein a person who's the investigator has to investigate against his own family members, or somebody has to carry out an investigation his against his immediate supervisor. So this can lead to conflict of interest. When such a situation arises, normally the party which is believed to be in the conflict of interest, they should remove themselves, and it is often legally required of them to remove themselves or recuse themselves. So some of the common examples of conflict of interest, what comes to the mind first is, self-dealing. This is a kind of a conflict of interest in which the manager who is taking a decision, his decision harms the company, but it enriches or benefits himself. So self-dealing. Uh, Another could be gift issuance. In this case, the person who's it's a very common conflict of interest. A person who's a decision maker, he accepts gifts from a client. So if you take a expensive gift from a client, it becomes very difficult for you to refuse favor to that client or a supplier. So first is self-dealing. I have explained, in which you take a decision which benefits you personally, but it harms the company. So suppose you have to buy two sets of air conditioners, one for yourself, one for your company or your organization, and one AC. Each AC is 30,000 rupees, and you say, okay, the one which you will supply to me, you will raise an invoice of 20,000 rupees, and the other you will raise an invoice of the amount to cover the loss you made when you supplied me the AC. Self dealing. Corruption, not, you're not indulging in full corruption, but this is corruption. Self dealing. Second is gift issuance. So you are the decision maker who will decide that which machinery you would buy. So you buy that machinery which you have some interest tied with him, or you have taken a gift sometime back, or during last Diwali or during the last festive period, and you become then obliged to help that vendor. Another type of common conflict of interest is confidential information is shared. So this is a huge conflict of interest, and you work for a company and you are bidding for a project, and you have submitted a quote, and you share that quote with a competitor in exchange of something, or maybe in exchange of not just money, in exchange of winning favors from that guy. Tomorrow you want to work with that company, you want to impress them. So this is a huge confidential, uh, you are sharing some very confidential information. This is also a huge conflict of interest. There is another thing is insider trading. You leak information selectively to a few people, even before the authorized people who are supposed to make that information public, even before they have done so. You leak that information to, let us say, you leak an information about you're going to buy a company, and you leak this information to a broker friend, so that that broker friend starts to invest in the company which you are going to take over, and he makes a profit out of it. Insider trading. People have been jailed for insider trading. Finally, another common example is what is known as nepotism. So you have few vacancies, and you fill them up all with your relatives. So you neither give any consideration to merit, nor you give any consideration to the company's interest, and you just hire people who are known to you. This is nepotism. Many kind of conflicts of interest are there, And uh, broadly, if I have to broadly classify them into four, I will say, relational conflict of interest. Relational, in which you try to give benefit to your family members, and uh, mainly relational interest. Try to give a contract to your son, or try to give a contract to your brother-in-law without disclosing it. Another is also relational, which is romantic. If an employee has a relationship with someone affiliated with the business, it could be a co-worker, client, and he gains from it, this is also a conflict of interest. I am reminded of my days when I was working for ExxonMobil. The two employees, if there are two, a boy and a girl, who are dating, and if they are going to get married, then one of them has to leave the company. One of them has to leave the company, because uh, it is considered inherent that when when you are confronted with a decision which involves your spouse, it's very likely that you may be, take a decision which may be biased. Financial conflict of interest, you offer customer discounts to people who are especially close to you. You are in the airline industry, and you offer discounts to your favorite set of booking agencies. And as I explained, confidential type of conflict of interest, in which you share confidential information. So conflict of interest is something very serious. First thing is that we have to understand that conflict of interest is a possibility in all walks of life. In all walks of life, conflict of interest is a possibility. More so in the business life. And a person may be clean hearted, he may be honest, and yet he may face a conflict of interest situation, where he will find it very difficult to take a decision which is 100% in favor of his company. Any such situation is conflict of interest. The noblest of men have faced conflict of interest situation. If you recall the case of Guru Dronacharya, Guru Dronacharya was the trainer, master, guru of Kauravas and Pandavas. So all the Pandavas, and he had special liking for Arjun, and he wanted Arjun to be the best archer in the world, the best archer in the world. And so as a guru, there was a young tribal boy called Eklavya, who used to watch the guru teach the students from a distance, and he also learned the skills of archery. So this young boy Eklavya, he also he also wanted to join the ashram, and he wanted to learn archery from Guru Dronacharya in a formal, organized manner. And he approached Guru Dronacharya, and Guru refused, because he was the Guru only of the royal family, and he was supposed to uh, give training and education only to the science or the children of royal family. But Guru also saw that Eklavya was an archer without parallel. He was unequaled in archery. In fact, the Guru Drona, also realized that Eklavya was a better archer than Arjun, his favorite student, whom he wanted to be the greatest archer in the world, the greatest uh, arrow expert in the world. And as a guru, he had two responsibilities. He had a responsibility towards the royal family, which was looking after his needs, paying him ensuring that he led a good, comfortable life, looking after his comforts. So he had a loyalty to the royal family. But as a teacher, he also had this loyalty towards everyone who wanted to learn from him. Because for a rishi and for a guru, the duty is not tied to one royal family. A guru belongs to the entire humanity. So there was a conflict of interest. Guru Drona experienced, and Guru Drona Guru Drona decided to side with the interest, his own interest towards the royal family, and he did not take Eklavya as a student. And when Eklavya said that all the archery that he had learnt after observing what the Guru was teaching to Kauravas and Pandavas from a distance, he asked for a Guru Dakshina. I have, okay, since you claim that I am your Guru and you have learned everything by observing me and watching me, you need to give me a Guru Dakshina. You need to give a gift to the Guru. And Eklavya said, whatever you want, Grandmaster. And he said, okay, I want your thumb. And Eklavya gave his thumb. He cut his thumb and put it at the feet of Guru Drona. What a tragic story. Guru Drona, his conflict of interest. He is torn between two sides. He could not sleep well after that. He knew he had committed a great sin. But he thought, and I don't think he thought it was a right thought process. He thought that he had kept his loyalty to the kingdom of Hastinapur. So, see, conflict of interest can it can pierce the hearts of the noblest and the best. So, it's very difficult to say. It's very difficult to say sometimes that whether you have taken a good decision or a bad decision, but you must be able to ensure that you don't get into a situation where there is a conflict of interest. Number one, if you get into a situation, you disclose the conflicts of interest to your higher authority and seek help from them to move further in that case. Let's now discuss what is actual conflict of interest, what is potential conflict of interest, and what is perceived conflict of interest. Let me give you an example. You are a member of service selection board. Service selection board, you know, is a board of Indian Army which selects candidates who join Indian Army as army officers. So you are a member, a SSB board member, let us say in Allahabad or in Bhopal, and your son also is aspiring to join the Indian Army as an officer, and he has appeared in the written examination, and has cleared the examination. So you are in the service selection board. There are many service selection boards, at least four or five, and you are in Allahabad. So if your son has to go for the final selection to service selection board or SSB Allahabad, this is a clear actual case of conflict of interest. The father is one of the members of the staff selection board, and this aspirant candidate is the son of that board member. So what normally happens is uh, this son will not be allotted that board. So he may not go to Allahabad if you are posted in Allahabad as the SSB board officer. You may be posted. This the son may get another center, let's say Bhopal or somewhere else, but he will not get Allahabad. So that is how army tries to avoid actual conflict of interest. But some people may say, normally the children of army officers, they become officers. They are selected if they clear the written examination. But then, no, army officers cannot resign from all their positions if their sons wants to come to the army. So I think I said there is a limit to the conflict of interest. So if the father is in the staff in the service selection board in a particular area, his son will not appear for the interview in that SSB. Because many people qualify the written. After that written, there is group task, there is group activity, and then there is the interview, and after that there is medical. So it's a exhaustive, extensive process of selection. So this is actual conflict of interest. I'll give you another example. You are running a tender process for your agency, and you are surprised to discover that one of the bidders is your cousin or your uncle. Actual conflict of interest. When you are confronted in a dilemma, you are in conflict between two social values: your professional duty to be objective and fair, and your duty to the family. This becomes a case of actual conflict of interest. It's very simple. So, actual conflict of interest is very straightforward. You are the judge, and you are allotted a case, and then the your son is there as a lawyer for another of the for one of the parties. What is potential conflict of interest? Potential conflict of interest is one which is not actual, but in time it could become an actual conflict of interest. Let us say you work in the IT section of an agency, and your brother opens a computer store in that area. You have no tenders out now, but for IT equipment, but it is possible that you will hold a tender in the near future in which your brother might want to bid for. This is potential conflict of interest. Potential conflict of interest. So it is not actual conflict of interest, but it can become a conflict of interest in future. So again, actual conflict of interest and potential conflict of interest are somebody may view something as a potential conflict of interest, whereas it may actually be a actual conflict of interest. Just to give you another example, suppose you are one of the selectors which selects the players for the Indian cricket team for the Test cricket, One Day International, and T20. You are a BCCI selector, and your son is playing under 19 now, and he's already represented India in under 19, and he's doing very well. And then you are appointed as a selector in BCCI. So right now, your son is not in the running for the position in the Indian team because he's still junior, he's still playing junior cricket. But this is a potential conflict of interest. Tomorrow, your son, once he graduates to playing for the senior team, he will also be eligible for selection. And you, his father, you are the member of the selection committee, or you are the member of the selection committee, or you are the chairman of that board. So this is a potential conflict of interest. The conflict is not there yet, but it is going to come. Some people can say, even if you are a selector for the BCCI for the India team of Test cricket, ODI, and T20, and you are not a selector for under 19 cricket team, still there can be some conflict of interest, because after all, a selection committee member of senior India team is considered to be a superior or a senior person to another member who is a member of the junior selection committee. The members of junior selection committee always look forward to getting promoted to the senior selection committee. So you are in a position to influence the people who are there for the selection of the junior cricket team. This is perceived conflict of interest. This is perceived conflict of interest. Another case of perceived conflict of interest is that you may be you may be the judge of the highest court in India, and you are giving judgments which seem to be favoring the ideology or the point of view of the government, and people may feel that you are just siding with one party because you want something else for the future. Maybe you are looking for a gubernatorial position, or you're looking to join a particular political party. So perceived conflict of interest is it is kind of trickier, and this could have its own ramification. This could have its own ramification. Let me take the case of uh, let's again come to the cricket. Let's take the case of BCCI, Board of Cricket Control of India. The president of BCCI, he's all powerful. He's the number one man of highly lucrative and the rich sporting body that BCCI is, and he is also involved in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, with one of the franchisees of IPL. This is perceived conflict of interest, because there is no actual conflict of interest, or there is no potential conflict of interest, but it is perceived conflict of interest. People have people have their reason to believe that you are likely to favor that IPL franchisee over others, directly or indirectly. This is perceived conflict of interest. So, I hope you have understood all these things, and you would be in a position to answer the questions. Let's try to give another example of perceived conflict of interest. Let us say, that you are a member of the pay commission. You are a member of the pay commission, and the pay commission is trying to give a massive pay hike, and this will also benefit you, because you are also your pay is also likely to go up. So this can be also a conflict of perceived conflict of interest. Not directly but indirectly. If suppose you are a member of uh, NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, which arbitrates between any disputes in the between the companies, and let us say a case has come to you of a dispute between two companies, and you are holding shares of one company, and you are holding shares of many companies, and out of this is also another company, and you are not holding a substantive shareholding, but it may be a perceived conflict of interest. So perceived conflict of interest is trickier often very trickier, and people generally like to have to listen to their voice of their conscience once they are or they should at least declare it. In any case, there should be a declaration. If there is an actual conflict of interest, you have to withdraw. If there is a potential conflict of interest, you have to disclose that, okay, and when the time comes, you have to withdraw from taking that decision. And if there's perceived conflict of interest, you at least have to come make a clean breast of your own vested interest in that case. So I hope I have been able to explain to you actual, potential, and perceived conflict of interest. Now let us discuss or take some examples of conflict of interest at work. And I've taken it from a website whose URL I have given below. And I want all of you to go through this because this will give you a detailed idea as to what exactly is conflict of interest. Many times people think that they are not in a situation where there is COI or conflict of interest, whereas they are. So the first example we have taken is hiring an unqualified relative to provide services your company needs. Looks very small. You are a partner in a company and you have hired a relative of yours who's not qualified, and the guy may have great integrity, he may be a person of impeccable character, but the fact is that he's not qualified. This is conflict of interest. It's not it's not a crime. It's not a crime per se, because you are authorized to hire a person, but it is unethical. As as a partner of the company, your you have a regard for your partner also, who has entrusted you with the job, that you will do all the hirings which will benefit the company. You have hired a relative, and there are other candidates who are there in the marketplace, in the job market, who are better than him. Even if you hire a qualified relative and you are working in a publicly held company, you need to make an admission of that. I want to emphasize this point. Second is starting a company that provides services similar to your full-time employer. This is very important. You are working as a general manager for a company that provides security to large scale industries or industrial organization. So you have big companies in Faridabad, Noida, Ghaziabad, Gurgaon, Delhi, Sonipat, who have large industrial complexes, and you work for a company. You are responsible not only to provide security guards to these companies, but also to provide the security systems like closed circuit television and what have you. And you are a paid employee of the company. In parallel, you think that this is a business which does not require uh, very substantive capital and does not require any high tech solution. You also give a counter offer to a factory that your company is providing these services for X amount, but you can provide it for this another amount. Have you not seen many times the mechanic or a technician of a established brand who comes to your house to service your refrigerator, and when he is going, he gives you a card saying that next time there is a problem, you can simply call him and he will come and do the work for a fraction of price. This is conflict of interest. Failing to disclose. Third is failing to disclose that you are related to a job candidate the company is considering hiring. So you are in an interview committee, and one of the candidate is well known to you. He's a son of a close friend. You need to disclose it. Otherwise, it becomes a conflict of interest. It's very clear. Making arrangement to work for a vendor or a client at a future date while continuing to do business with them. Let us say you work for a for a company, you work for the government, and you are carrying out inspections of schools. You are carrying out inspections for schools, and you are in a position to favor a school. You can be lenient towards some of the conditions that school is supposed to fulfill, and you, as an inspector of the school, you overlook certain shortcomings of the school. It's okay, people do it by giving a verbal warning or something. I have no quarrel with that. But even as you are, as a government official inspecting a school, you are making a deal with the school authorities or the school owner that I'm going to retire at such and such date, and after that I would work for you as a consultant. It's unethical. you're leaving the school owner with no position to say yes or no. It happens. Fifth is very important, posting to social media about your company's weaknesses. If you want to if you want to blow the whistle on some activity of your company, you have to blow the whistle to your company management or to your director. If your company is foul, is doing foul, it's on the wrong side of the law, you need to report it to authorities. But suppose your company has some weakness and you talk about it under your name or under a pseudonym. Pseudonym means assumed name. And you talk about such an activity in a Facebook page or in a Twitter handle, or suppose there is a small incident in your factory and you record it and you put it on Instagram. These are five examples of uh, conflict of interest at work. Your primary responsibility is to the betterment of your organization. Even if you have even if you have a difference of opinion with the management of your organization, you cannot go public with that unless it is a serious thing in the public interest, and it's a very serious thing and you feel very strongly about it, and there is no way after discussing with the management has agreed to it. I'm not talking of the extreme situation, but in general. So these are five examples. I will give you few more examples in the next slide. Continuing with the examples of unethical behavior at work or unethical instances. Sixth is if you offer paid service, paid services on your off time to a company customer or supplier. Many people think it is okay. Many people think it is okay, but actually it is not okay. Suppose I am working full time as a consultant for a company that provides ISO services, and I am a full time employee of that company. I have signed an agreement that I will work exclusively for my company and that I will not do moonlighting. And yet, because I have the knowledge, I provide the ISO certification services. You know, ISO certificate, ISO 9001 or ISO 14,000, 13,000, how you get these accreditations. You many times need a specialist person to guide you in your organization. And my organization provides this service, and I am one of the consultants who goes to factories or organizations and provide the services on behalf of my company. And if I start to freelance these services during my off time, even if it is my time off, during weekends, I am being unethical to my company. Why? Because I should have tried to get these clients onto my company's business, onto my company's role. Moreover, since I have a contract, I have a clause that I cannot be doing moonlighting. This is a highly unethical act. People don't realize this. Second is working part time at a company that sells a competing product or service as your full time employer. So, in case number six, I was providing services to uh, customers. In this case, I'm even working for a company which competes with my company in the marketplace. Very very unethical, very unethical. Which means that uh, suppose I am a suppose I'm selling health insurance, and selling health insurance of Max Bupa, and I have another agency in the name of my son, which is ICICI Lombard, and I am providing services. I am a full-time employee of Max Bupa, and during my spare time, I am getting business ostensibly in the name of my son, but actually I am the one who is going and soliciting business. This is highly unethical. Another unethical practice is when you accept payments from another company for information about your employer. Very Very, very disgraceful, highly objectionable, and condemnable. See, data is the bedrock for information. Sharing data about your own company with about your employer and accepting payment for it is it's it's very unethical. If you're working for a data center company, or if you have access to some data because you work for a company that collects a lot of data, and then you sell this data to a third party and you accept payment for it, even if you don't accept payment for it, sharing confidential information is very objectionable. This is a highly unethical practice. Once again, why am I telling you all this? Tomorrow, I don't want you to turn around and say that, I don't know whether this is ethical or not ethical. Point number 9, failing to investigate a subordinate or co-worker's wrongdoing because you're friends with him. Very bad. You are a supervisor, and a team member of yours is indulging into acts which are unethical, and you keep quiet about it even when your manager asks you to investigate. You don't really investigate it sincerely because the guy is your friend. It is something which is very unethical. 10th is sharing confidential information about your employer with a competitor. So you're working for a establishment, and how does your employer, how does your company, what how does your company get sources of fund? Is there a private equity which is backing you? Since you are not a listed company, this is not out in public domain, but your employer, suppose your employer is backed by a private equity or a venture capital firm or by an angel investor, this is very, very confidential information. You cannot share it. Point number 11, and I discussed it briefly, dating or having romantic relationship with a supervisor or subordinate. Very contentious point. But in America, in some companies, and in Europe also, you need to declare if you are dating one of your subordinates or your supervisor or even a colleague. Not marrying, dating. Why is it important? Why is it important? Suppose you are a leader of a team, and you are also into a romantic emotional relationship with one of the teammates, and you are dating him or her. It is likely that in your judgment about that person's performance, male or female, you would be biased, or you may not be able to maintain an equilibrium in your team. Some other members may perceive you to be not somebody who's biased. They may have a sense of lack of equity and justice. They may think that you are being partial to that colleague, and this will lead to a sense of discontentment in the team. So I've given you 11 points till now, which to me, and once again, I have taken it from the website and I have produced them verbatim. I have not changed a word or a comma or a full stop, and I want to give full credit to everfi.com blog workplace training conflicts of interest at work. I thought it was an exhaustive list, and please visit this website to know more about them and appreciate them. Example number 12, making a purchase or business choice to boost a business that you have a stake in. So, uh, your company hires a number of buses to transport employees from metro station to the factory premises, and your family has, or you yourself has, a fleet of 5 buses, and then you give a contract to your company. Even if you don't own that company fully, even if you are a 10% shareholder in that company, you have a 10% partnership stake. This is unethical This is a highly unethical aspect of your behavior at work. Accepting a favor or a gift from a client above the amount specified as acceptable by the company. For example, I said in case of Wipro's code of conduct says that you cannot accept a gift which is more than 50 US dollars from anybody. First of all, you cannot accept a gift in case of in case a custom so demands that you accept a gift, it should not be more than $50, and you need to report it to your management. So if you are accepting a gift which is more than the specified amount of a company, it of course is a violation. It's an unethical practice. Owning part of business that sells goods or services to your employer. Once again, just like the point number 12, that you have a stake in a supplier company and you're not reporting it. Point number 15, reporting to a supervisor who is also a close friend or family member. One can do it provided one has reported this to the appropriate manager. Otherwise, it's a clear conflict of interest. So you are an accountant and the chief financial officer is your uncle, and you have not made this known to the or your uncle has not made it known to the managing director or the HR head. This is a conflict of interest. Doing business or work for a competitor, even if you are working part time, even if you are working free, accepting consulting fees and providing advice to another company for personal gains. Accepting consulting fees or providing advice to another company for personal gain. See, some of the points you will find are repetitive in this blog, but then it also helps us to emphasize as to what is ethical and what is unethical. Last 3 points as per the blog everfi.com on conflict of interest, instances or examples of conflict of interest, sharing information in an interview about your employer's activities or plans. So you work for, let us say, a ketchup manufacturing company, which is the leader in the market, and you have gone for an interview. You're working as an area sales manager and you have gone for an interview for a competing company to a senior position, and then they ask you, they try to extract information from you, because believe me, many times interviews are done not to hire people but to know about what is happening in the competitive in the competition. What is the competing company doing, and you are asked questions about what are going to be your promotions, trade promotions for Diwali. You are in a situation whether you should answer this question or you should not answer this question. So you should tell them, sir, the information I have, the full information. I am a part of the management. I am a part of the middle management. However, I would not. I would beg your forgiveness. I cannot reveal this information in this interview because this is a company confidential matter. If you give out these plans, it is unethical. Point number 19 is taking advantage of confidential information learned on the job for your own benefit. This is as long as you are in the job. You cannot take advantage of such a thing for your own benefit unless your company allows you, isn't it? So, suppose you have a confidential information about your own company, and you know that your company is going to report a loss. Okay, your company is going to report a loss in the next quarter, and this will lead to decline in the share, and you share this information with your brother who's a stockbroker. This is unethical. Last but not the least is cashing in on a business opportunity that your company might have pursued. So once again, you're also doing moonlighting. Suppose your company is providing repair activity of electronic key sensitive electronic components, and your company has not been able to get that assignment, or maybe your company has lost the interest midway, or your company finds that this is not this business may not be remunerative for the company, and then you plunge yourself in and you make a proposal to the client that you could, in your personal capacity, pursue this business opportunity. So these are the 20 examples I have given you from this blog. It should make uh, it should make some sense to you, and it should be abundantly clear to you by now that what constitutes a conflict of interest. It will help you in your daily life, more specifically in your professional life. I hope so.